Today, I sit here with the multi-hyphenate artist herself, Ninjanae. I want to make sure we're able to connect with her on so many different levels, but I definitely want you to introduce yourself because you wear so many different hats. Mm-hmm. I know the public has seen you do so many different things. Who is Ninjanae?
Ninjanae is a creative, an empath, and somebody who's passionate about just the complexities of humanity and the human nature. So I try my best to explore those things in my art and in my everyday life.
I love that. Tell us a little bit about Alchemy Blue.
Alchemy Blue is my creative agency. We focus on branding and marketing. We're doing a pretty big relaunch in the fourth quarter of the year. We'll be changing up some services, so I'm really excited about it. We'll also be offering some digital products. So there'll be different workbooks for some of the smaller businesses that kind of just need some clarity in their vision. I'm really excited about it.
You should be. That's awesome.
It's a big deal. It's a lot of work. Like Ninjanae is the creative aspect of who I am, and I'm creative across the board. But when it comes to like the business side of things and just being an entrepreneur, it's so much work and it's a lot of pressure on yourself, but I don't think I'd have it any other way. So Alchemy Blue is one of my babies too. Like Ninjanae is kind of like my little baby, even though it's me, but Alchemy Blue is its whole own machine that needs to be tended to all the time. And I'm really excited to be relaunching in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think we're all excited. We've seen a lot of teasers. We've seen you work for such a long time, so to see a place where we can kind of go and purchase a service is something I think we're all really excited about. One thing we've also seen you push a lot lately has been music. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about Ninjanae Presents.
So that actually was birthed, the playlists were birthed through heartbreak, ironically. Ooh. So the very first playlist was called Heartbreak Hotel, mm-hmm. and it was very therapeutic. I've always wanted to do something with music. I mean, my undergraduate degree is in music business. So my plans when I was 18 were a little different, but I've always wanted to have something to do with music, and everything I do, music inspires me. It also, again, is therapeutic. So those playlists, even though they ended up being very full of love, full of affection, they, like, making them is so much fun for me, and people enjoy them. I get a lot of great feedback. Some of them are going to start being a little less full of love, but so I hope everybody still loves them. But they're just super fun to make, and I'm glad people are enjoying them. I'm going to keep making them.
Yeah, I'm sure the first few installments, people owe you some baby names. Like,
I think so too.
Get a few little ninjas next year.
Yeah, just put it in the middle names.
So I definitely want to make sure we discuss this brilliant book we have right here. Amazing. So, The Odyssey. This book is titled so brilliantly. Your own Odyssey is now a physical time capsule that you produced. It includes a variety of prayers, poems, and practicalities. It is incredibly relatable. Honestly, when I read it, related 100% to it. One thing I appreciate most in it is in the midst of creating this book, I noticed you decentered yourself and you recognize that each of us has our own Odyssey. And it includes, a lot of blessings. We all receive our blessings, but also extreme challenges. And we must journey through them. One consistent line in a couple of your entries seems to frame your sentiment on life itself. And that's the thanks. That's okay, I'll learn to work around it. Like, what did you get that from? Where did you pull that approach from?
Some of it is kind of in what I feel is my only choice. So I could sit in the misery of my challenges, or I can try to figure out how to do something about it. Although my challenges make me reflect a lot on death and how much time I have here, I also feel like I'll probably outlive a lot of people, and if I spend time drowning and not trying to swim, then I'm gonna waste a lot of years that way. So there's some aspect of it that feels like it's the only choice to view it that way. But I also have like my grandmother, who is no longer with me, but you know, she always had that answer to everything. You know, you just put it in God's hands and you keep doing your work and just keep going. So I think there's some trickle down to it. So there's like that balance between the type of women I've grown up around, but also that feeling of what else is there to do besides keep trying and keep going.
Beautiful. That's something I heard or I saw so many times in this book, and it was really inspiring just to see, thanks, okay, I'll work around it. So the way that you persevere is huge. On August 20th, 2017, this book includes a bunch of different entries along with amazing photos. But this particular entry, at the end of it, you have a line where you state, "These tears hurt." And what a tangible feeling that is, to hear "these tears hurt." That relatable experience is one that makes this book so incredibly special. Although there was doubt at the end of your entry, you ended it also with hope. In what you consider your toughest times, what reminds you of strength? What rallies you to continue?
My faith, for sure. Not every day is tough, and I can't treat every day like it's tough either. So in a lot of the passages, you can see that I am being weighed down in some way, but it's like I feel like I gotta just keep standing tall. And again, you know, I feel like that's the only way for me to navigate life, is to always have faith that today is hard, but tomorrow is not gonna be. Or this moment, this time is hard, but maybe by the end of the day I'll feel better, because that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just always a measure of making sure I don't sit too long in a hard time or in a frustrating moment, because another thing is the mind, right? Sometimes things are hard, but sometimes they're not that hard. You know, it's our mind and where we're at mentally, where we're at emotionally. So there's a lot of me making sure I'm aware of my center and how far away I am from it at any given moment. And I just, again, it's just I try not to let my mind play tricks on me.
Yeah.
Because life is hard, you know, it has its challenges, but life is also beautiful, and there's a lot of good things going on at the same time of the hard times going on. So I try to, again, just keep that balance, or keep aware of the balance of it. I might have a hard time, but then there'll be somebody to show me love that day, you know. The other day, I got really overwhelmed, and I started to tear up. And I took a deep breath, and I put my head back, and I said, "God, I trust you," like 8 times in a row. And about 25 minutes later, I got a text message with help. The person has no idea that what they were texting me about was even help for me, you know? Those are those moments that keep me like, they're reminders, you know? You have to have faith. You have to trust that the world is bigger than you, and what's going on is bigger than you. So you just have to play your part and keep going.
I love that. The universe conspires for you, with you, for you, with love. On lupus, what is lupus? And also, take us to 2016, this book, where it begins and what it felt like being diagnosed.
So lupus is an autoimmune disease. It is a connective tissue disease, and it is a situation where your immune system typically attacks or activates rather, I should say, when you have some type of virus, bacteria, if you get injured. But someone with lupus, your immune system is just active and it's attacking healthy tissue in your body. So there's just like a long variety of things that come with that. Every single person with lupus is affected differently. It affects predominantly women and women of color. So it's a very much so a reminder of who I am. It's a part of me. I was diagnosed because of I was getting like these large bumps on my legs. They looked like huge mosquito bites. They were gigantic. And the dermatologist did a couple tests and said, I'm pretty sure you have lupus. You know what's crazy? He called me while he was eating his lunch, which is really crazy, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm pretty sure you have lupus, but you're gonna have to go see a rheumatologist. So after I went through 3 or 4 rheumatologists, I have the one I have now. But it was intense, mostly because in 2016, one of my aunts was passing from cancer. She passed one weekend. The following weekend was her services. The following weekend, one of my best friends passed away. And then 5 days later, I found out I had lupus. So lupus is also a leading cause of death in women of color. For my age group, it's the 6th leading cause of death. And once I get to 35, it's the 8th leading cause of death. I'm very close, and I'm feeling again like I'm gonna outlive a lot of people. But it's a very overwhelming feeling to be diagnosed with something that can kill you for a second time. I'm also a cancer survivor while you're surrounded by death. And that's really why this book kind of came about, because I was collecting these entries, these thoughts, because this was just like a time that forced me into introspection. So I had no choice but to like really look at life and look at what I'm doing here, what my time is here, what is the purpose of life. You know, my aunt was in her early 50s, so she had so much time she could still give us, and one of my best friends was 27. So even in that, right, one just passed suddenly, one was sick. There was just so much to think about in that time. So it was very overwhelming, but I do appreciate my challenge, mostly because it forced me into that, and it forced me to look at life a little differently, and forced me to slow down and think about what really matters.
Wow. I'm sure there were a lot of ebbs and flows during that time.
We're still ebbing and flowing. We're still ebbing.
It's the Odyssey. Okay, It continues. That's wonderful that we're here. And I'm glad you had all 3 of them to cherish on navigating your treatment with lupus. I want to go back to an entry that you put in your book, August 20th, 2017. It's an in color entry. We see a lot of black and white. It looks like, it seems to me when I read it, like you lost faith in doctors. What about prescription medicine troubles you?
It doesn't stop. So once you start one, they'll give you another one and another one. And for me, there are also times where they give them to you more than one at a time.
Yeah.
I never start medications together. I always start one at a time. And it's always because what if an ailment is really a symptom of one of the drugs, and now we don't know what's what, you know? I am so weary of the pharmaceutical industry. I actually started going back to therapy because at some point I couldn't figure out if I'm doing more harm than good by avoiding taking medication, because I really do avoid it. I hate taking medication. But at some point things got so bad that I had to say, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And my rheumatologist, I really trust. Although he's a research doctor, so one, that's a benefit because he gets really nerdy.
Yeah.
But on the other end, he wants to try all the stuff, you know, because he's nerdy. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't say nerdy in a bad way either. I think he's super cool, but he's really into his career. but he's always honest, he's always patient with me, and he lets me take my time when it comes to deciding if I'm gonna start a new treatment. So the new treatment I'm on is an infusion, which was like, the idea of me sitting in a room with an IV strapped to my arm was, in my mind I'm thinking like chemo, but that's not how it is. We all get our own room, they bring us snacks and blankets, it's kind of nice.
Fancy.
But it's a little restricting, so I don't really love it. But I know I have to try things because the constant inflammation that lupus causes is also harmful. Like long term, it can cause damage too. So it's really hard to navigate, and I'm again thankful that I found a medical team that gives me that time to, like, they don't force anything on me, and I think that's really important. A few things that I think is really important for anyone who's having some health challenges: you are allowed to shop for doctors, you are allowed to date, right? You can try a doctor, I don't like that. You can fire a doctor. I fired a doctor this year. You know, your healthcare is you. So for me and my doctors are teams. Right? I know my body, you know medicine. So we need to work in that way. We don't just listen to what the doctors say. We have to listen to our bodies too. So again, I feel like everyone should date their doctors. Do not just take an answer you're not comfortable with. Make sure that you do your own research as well. You are not a doctor from Google though, so.
WebMD, have my degree.
Please don't do that neither, because you will drive them doctors crazy.
Absolutely.
But, you know, those are things when people come to me with ailments, that's my advice to them. Like, if you don't feel comfortable, get another opinion. If you don't want to go that route, ask what your options are, you know, and go with what feels right for you, and listen to your body most importantly. Make sure your doctors know that we're a team.
Yeah.
You don't run my treatment, you don't run me, you know what I mean? We work together.
Yeah, that's a beautiful position to take, only because I think a lot of people, you know, I think there's a level of position of privilege here where it's like, hey, I'm in the know, that I can say no. And a lot of people don't know that they can say no, or don't know that there are other options, whether there's like healthcare restrictions with their insurance, which is a battle in itself.
It's a whole additional topic.
A different day. But really helpful information, even in the midst of you going through your own treatments. And even in this book, you just detail so much of like your feeling in the moment, and you pour that out. I want to move on to reference the poem on page 91 in relation to grief. You have a few different poems in relation to grief, and I know we talked about a few people you lost close to your diagnosis. When it comes to mourning, can you tell me a little bit about directly after you received your diagnosis and you had, you know, death after death kind of compound? What does it look like for you in mourning? We all grieve differently.
I am very big on sitting with your feelings. I know a lot of times we do a lot to run away from them and just keep going. In 2016, I started with a little bit of running and trying to avoid thinking about it. I also was trying to like protect everyone else from it. Like, I didn't want anybody else to have to deal with it, you know? And I would bottle it up and deal with it privately, which is still my MO. That's very, you know, on brand for me. I'm very good at processing and dealing with things on my own. But with time now, things are a little different, where over these last, I want to say like 3 years, I've been way more open than I've ever been, and it's been so nice. I still retreat. I call it my turtle shell. I will definitely go in my little turtle shell and peek out sometimes. But I definitely appreciate having safe spaces with people. I think that's really important. But grief is a roller coaster. Many times we think of grief solely as when somebody passes.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that's not always the case. It's not just in passing, in the passing of a person. It's in the passing of time and the changes of eras and the death of eras that you have and things like that. A lot of times what I'm grieving is actually a healthy body. But when I look back, I've never actually, no, I don't remember what it's like to have a healthy body. So I'm mourning something I don't really know about.
Yeah.
I mourn the way I thought my career would go. I don't know how it would go because it didn't go that way. You know what I mean? Like maybe it would have never went that way either. So there's so many levels to it, but the actual stages of it are all the same. So, you know, you have your denial stages, you have your frustration, your sadness, your bargaining, then you'll have peace.
And acceptance.
Even with that, you can cycle through the whole thing again over and over. It does get better because with acceptance, you're able to navigate the times where you're feeling frustrated because you have reminders of the clarity you gained at different points. But, you know, grief is really a forever kind of thing. And I think we really have to learn how to have the patience and the grace for ourselves and give us the space, give ourselves the space to do those things, to mourn, you know, to grieve and to find those moments of peace that we can kind of hold in our pocket for the times where we don't have it.
Back on overcoming, in many of your entries, you discuss some of the side effects of your illness, of having lupus, that include things like brain fog and fatigue often. And the concept of failing to reach some of your goals and just your full potential in this lifetime. You did this. Do you feel like this is victory?
Absolutely. In so many ways, because brain fog is really tough. And I think there's definitely been a shift in just how I value myself and look at my worth. For so long, my worth was really tied in possession and in my career and the success of it. I've always been a very ambitious person, but I don't think I realized how much I put that into the value of who I was. So with my challenges, I feel like they're just constantly peeling back the layers of the onion. And the closer I get to my core, the more I realize like what's the most important, right? What about me is really the asset here. So yeah, like sometimes I struggle with brain fog. Sometimes I'm so tired I fall asleep on the floor of my office. Sometimes I can't get up, right? There's been times I couldn't stand on my own 2 feet. So that takes away from that success, and that success takes away from all the fancy stuff I don't have that I thought made me who I was. But at my core, I'm still solid, right? That's like my favorite thing to say about myself. And I think the more I focus on the fact that I'm solid, I'm somebody who moves with integrity and somebody who cares to be a kind person and an asset in the world, you know, of use to the world, not to be used, but to be useful. The more I've started to focus on that, the more I actually start to get things done and stop worrying about a lot of other things. So this project, creatively, it's come the farthest since 2016. And not only is it in like putting together the book and putting together like the photos and the words, because I started this when I was doing very bad health-wise. But it's also in me just even setting this up. Like I'm really project managing this whole thing myself, which is overwhelming some days. I'm like, damn. I tweeted the other day, like, Odyssey really needs a project manager, but I'm gonna see this baby to the finish line.
Yeah.
But I'm also taking the moments now to be proud of the steps, which I never used to do. So this is more of a victory than just the fact that I did the book, and also in just like wow, now I take the time to celebrate the in-between.
Yeah.
Which is celebrating the journey, the small wins, which we get so lost in, like, I want to sell 10 million copies.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool, but man, I'm doing a lot of stuff I thought I couldn't do. I'm doing it, you know? So it's very much so bigger than what it, like, it's not surface level at all.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about it. I'm very proud of it. Even if it's, I keep saying, even if it's just this one copy. Like, I'm proud
Which
of
it will not be. This is no small feat, but also knowing this about you, the worker that you are, the work that has gone into Alchemy Blue alone.
It's been a long time.
As an agency, as a creative agency,
it's been a long
to
time
see
coming.
you masterfully organize and continuously put out work with your different projects, when it comes to the playlist, when it comes to the book, when it comes to yourself, when it comes to your photography, that I have personally been seeing since MySpace.
So long ago.
It's been work. I think life has been legit work. You've been putting out quality content for such a long time. I think that really speaks to who you are as a business person and what people can kind of look forward to when it comes to the quality of working with you as an individual and your agency and the type of attention to detail that you're bringing to the table. One thing I definitely want to connect with you on, because we talked about the playlist and everything like that, is music. And Kendrick Lamar's Section 80, one of my favorite songs, track titled Absol's Outro. Kendrick states, "I'm not on the outside looking in, I'm not on the inside looking out. I'm in the dead fucking center looking around." And what that speaks to me so clearly, that need to identify where you're at in this moment and address the position you have in this larger ecosystem that we just live in. More than survive, hopefully some of us are thriving, you know what I mean? Some of us are just surviving. But just in general, that need to articulate perspective. You do that so much in Odyssey. Tell me a little bit about how instrumental perspective shifting was for you from 2016 to, we conclude Odyssey around what year? 20?
22.
22. So yeah, when we kind of just like fully go this entire time, tell me how instrumental that perspective shift was for you.
It's my coping mechanism. Perspective switching, or just like, I always feel that the first thing you should do when you are facing a challenge is feel what you feel and then ask, what is this teaching me? What is this teaching me? What are you teaching me? If you have a link to God or the universe, whoever you're asking, just sit and ask, what is it teaching me? And I promise you'll find a lesson or a reason somewhere in it. Something will come to you. That is how I navigate life. I cannot see myself not doing that. You have to ask yourself, what is it teaching you? Everything has a lesson in it. And that's, to me, life is in growth. No matter how old you are always going to have something that you face that's a little different than the last time. And then even if it's not different, you already learned something so long ago about how to navigate this thing. So, to me, if I don't sit and try to figure out a new perspective, then again, we're just sitting in it. And we're not learning, we're not growing, we're not gonna go anywhere, we're gonna stay in the same spot, we're gonna be chasing our tails. And I'm very much so solution-based. That's how I ended up in the business that I'm in. I'm always like, what is the way around this? What is the way out of it? Do we have to walk with it? Is it something we can figure out how to let go of? What are we doing? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah, I like that. We like solutions over here. Oh, with your deep connection to music, I have to ask, Is there a line or a song that truly lived rent-free in your heart?
We're going to ask this now. We were just singing.
Oh my God. I'm out of town. Staying with my, lives rent-free. Okay? But no, during the time periods you discussed in the book, though, Sexy Red wasn't out yet. Shout out to her. But rent-free. Was there a particular song or maybe just a line that was just like, ooh, this is the one? And it doesn't necessarily have to be motivational, but it can be. It can be something that just felt the same.
Freedom by Beyonce. Ooh. Ironically, produced by Just Blaze, and we talked about our favorite producers earlier.
I love that.
But that song, between the production of it, but also in the chorus, you know, she says things like, I break chains all by myself, won't let my freedom rot in hell. I'm going to keep winning because the winner don't quit on themselves.
Yeah.
When that song came out, I loved it. I just loved the chorus. And I was actually working on a project, a visual project specifically for my health challenges at the time. And that song, I was like, it's got to be in there somewhere. I know they're going to copyright me to death, but it's got to be in there somewhere, because I just feel like that's such a powerful thing to say. And she says it with such a grit and such a intention and a force. And I know the intention of that song is a little different than what I have going on, but it just hit me like, man, like that's something you could stand up and say that, like look in the mirror and say, I'm gonna keep winning because the winner don't quit on themselves. Right. Or like these chains aren't gonna keep me down. Like I'm gonna break them. I'm gonna do the work. I'm gonna get past this. So that's something that sticks out to me today. But there's always gonna be a bunch of different songs. Like I love Ironically by Solange, Cranes in the Sky, because in the verses she says everything I've done to try to get rid of my sadness. Everything I've done, like that she listed that song, I'm like, I've tried all of that and it didn't work. You're right. It didn't work. But it does over time, you know what I'm saying? And they're all a part of navigating it. But that song also is amazing to me in that way. And then sometimes I just put on some stuff that just, you know, makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also important.
It is. To still have joy, to still have relatable content. I always tell people, music hits differently when you're going through whatever you're going through. If you are happy, there is a song that will take that up and elevate it. If you are sad, you can listen to some Mary J and she'll be right there with you. Like there's so many artists and so many different songs and writers and producers that'll, you know, just elevate whatever experience you're having already. So I think it's really dope, especially hearing your playlist.
I know.
Which I love.
And even in that, like, those take you places too, right?
Yeah.
So I've had people tell me they can't listen to my playlist because they don't have a partner. They don't have a partner, and it takes them to a certain place. So, which I get, you know. But to me, that's also just a testament to how music can take you somewhere else. One thing I do all the time is I dance by myself. I will put some music on and dance. So we can critique, like, a lot of people don't really love the ghetto ratchet stuff, but for me, that stuff sometimes brightens my mood, you know? Like, it's something that gets you moving, it gets you up, it gives you some energy. There was a time where I was really, throughout the duration of this book, I wasn't really doing well, and I would kind of like pump myself up. So if I was going to see people, I would like put all this pump up music so that I can like kind of put my mask on, like get ready to put my mask on. Yeah. But sometimes it wasn't just putting the mask. Like sometimes the music really did change my mood, you know? So, and this ranges, like it could be like a Luther Vandross or Michael Jackson song, but it could also be
Sexy Red. This is not a Sexy Red promo, but
I know, let me throw somebody else.
Yeah, whoever.
Somebody else.
It could be Lola.
love some Lola. I love hood music too, like real gangsta rap music. In my past life, I might have been a gangster, you know.
In the streets.
I probably was because I really love it.
But it transcends.
But it transcends. Sometimes I love some R&B, and
we know.
I have no boo. You know what I mean? But I'm in the car like
singing
there's
it.
somebody right there that I'm serenading. You know what I mean? So I just find music to be such a powerful tool for like just when you're happy, when you're sad, anything in between, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. With music, I'm loving to see your playlist, especially with the imagery next to it. It is so important to see how you are your own subject oftentimes and how you just masterfully like put this feeling of your entire playlist and whatever photo, whatever cover photo, whatever like series of photos you're releasing along with it. I really do love them. So that is just like,
thank you.
You know, just
thank you.
Claps to you for really getting it done. And these photos that you're attaching to them, like what's going through your mind?
So the blue light photos for Swim Blue, one, I think my first playlist, Swim, I did red because that's like red light special TLC me. You know what I mean? Like the idea of the red light or red is so sexy. But they're called Swim. And I'm like, that's, you know, I don't know. It gave like a different energy. And the pictures I took, I really love boudoir photography, like a whole lot. There's somebody I follow on I'm gonna call it my burner account for now, but it was my old portfolio page. And there are a few boudoir photographers I follow, but there's one in particular that his use of shape, I guess I can say, is amazing. Like the way he gets the angle along the curves, and they're always wearing these really sexy pieces, and they're very tasteful but sexy, you know, and just highlight the woman's body. So it's always inspiring, and I'm always like, oh, I love boudoir photography so much. But they're usually either in black and white or in full color. And I thought playing around with the light was like also kind of cool because that also sets a certain tone or mood in the picture as well. But there's certain angles and things I can't get because they're self-portraits. And, you know, if I'm gonna be honest, I've been taking pictures a long time and my tripod is cheap. It's really some BS. I really need to upgrade my tripod. But even if I had a tripod, you know, just certain things you can't get. So I always have to be very creative in just how I'm placing myself. And I just loved the way they came out. I was a little, because I've been gone so long, I was a little skeptical to put them out. I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah, they were good.
But then my mama said one of them was really beautiful. And I said, my mama said they're beautiful.
No, so I know they're beautiful, yeah.
But I looked through the book and there's pictures from 2016 where I'm in like a leather jacket and just underwear and heels, and I'm like, I was so bold back then.
Yeah.
So it kind of just pushed me to do it, and I think they went so perfect with the playlist. YouTube is my biggest hater. They will not let me put my mixes on there for whatever reason, even though other people put mixes on there.
I'm crying.
So I had to pause on the videos, but I didn't want to stop putting the playlists out. So that's when I had to kind of figure out another medium, which is, you know, photography. It's my thing anyway, so it worked out.
I love it, and it's brilliant.
And sometimes the pieces in art just come together. Sometimes it's not always intentional, right? Like I wanted to do that photo shoot, and then when I was doing it, I'm like, oh, this would be dope to go with the playlist.
Yeah.
And I wanted to drive the playlist, so I just kind of just let the art overlap almost.
It seems like we're introduced to your breakup. In July 20th, we received deep appreciation for peace. There's color in your photos for the first time again. And I love a quote that states, time heals all. And like that's a personal thing that I've heard and I truly do believe in. Like time will heal everything. And that difficult transitional period during that breakup or what seems like a breakup? What healed you?
Time.
Yeah.
It did take time. Again, sitting with whatever the issues are, reflection. Reflection's super important. I would say across the board. In breakups, there's like the reflection of the situation, and then there's a reflection of the other person, and then there should be a reflection of yourself. Like the time you take to dive into the entire look of it. And what's kind of cool in heartbreak, because heartbreak really sucks. But what's kind of cool in heartbreak is for the first time, you're looking at it almost from a bird's eye view. Because you're no longer in it. So now you have to look at the entire picture. And for me, I did what I do with all my challenges, which is, initially you try to you're a little upset, So you try to maybe run away from it for a second.
Yeah.
But that never works. So you really have to sit in it, like I've been saying, and just take the time to really think deeply about it and think about what it's taught you, because that's also a moment where you learn a lot about others, you learn a lot about yourself, but you really learn a lot about love, period. Like, what is this, and what does it look like for me moving forward? What didn't I like, but what did I really like, So again, I'm always going to be a big proponent for really sitting with your feelings and always asking yourself, what is this particular set of circumstances teaching you?
Excerpts from a love letter never sent is one of my favorite entries in this entire book. It's literally a work of art. That entry explores unconditional love as you express your capacity for unconditional love. Like, you can do it. I read it. There were some lines in there and was like, whoa, this girl has got depth. She can do it. Unconditional is on you. But in the reality, you make it very clear that relationships do have conditions, which we all should know. I appreciate the way you love yourself, like just in general, the way that you love on yourself, the way that you, even today, learning more about you, and how you just address life. I want people to approach you to write their vows, just because how deep that particular entry was. What does love look like for you? And also indicate how you'd like to be loved.
Love to me is in care. It's really in the action. Last year I read All About Love by Bell Hooks.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually after I came to that conclusion. So, a big part of why I included the letter in the book was because earlier in the book, there are moments where you can see I'm struggling with love and just kind of understanding what I think it's supposed to be. Ironically, there's a passage in there where I say something like, I just want a love that doesn't look like a decision based on my conditions. And then fast forward a couple years later, and I'm exploring it again, the idea of conditional love versus conditions of a relationship, So when I read All About Love by Bell Hooks, it kind of even gave me more clarity to what I was finally able to articulate myself, which is that love is a feeling, but love is also a verb. It's action. It is in the things you do for someone. And the things you do for someone are a choice, So love to me is in partnership. It's in caring for one another. It's in making sure each other is taken care of. In the intro to the book, I also bring that up as well when I reflect on my grandparents because of their love and how they always, no matter their differences and no matter how imperfect, we all are, and how imperfect their relationship wasn't bad, but it was, everybody has their own little thing. They made sure each other was taken care of. I think my grandparents have taught me that, and even my health has taught me that. I haven't had good experiences in relation to my health with love. I've actually had kind of bad situations. So for me, again, it's all in love is in taking care of each other, and it's in making sure that the other person feels cared for in the way that they need to be cared for. So not in what you think is the right thing to do for them, but in learning them and in learning what they need to feel love, to feel comfortable, and to feel their best self and giving that back to you, you know, creating that space for each other.
Yeah.
You asked what love looks like for me?
I did ask what love looks like for you.
It looks reciprocal, and it feels safe, and it feels full, and it feels like something I don't have to question. It's just a sincere and genuine intention between two people and decision to love each other.
Write them vows, baby. Listen, call in. Write the vows, because yes to it all. Yes to it all. That was perfect. I feel like that needs to be at somebody's wedding tomorrow. They needed you yesterday.
Yeah. Might add it as a Ninja service.
Yeah, but also very true. Also very true, and being safe. What does it look like dating with lupus? That is not, you are a girl, a woman that happens to have lupus. It's not like, hi, my name's Janae, I have lupus, just because, you know, and that's all of me. But with your condition, is dating with lupus difficult?
Dating is difficult, period. It's weird out here.
Amen.
But most people don't know what lupus is. So I always, like, my running joke in my head is I date men and I have a lot of male friends. And I feel like they don't hear AIDS or HIV or the clap, so they still trying to, you know, clap. Right? so you know, I mean, let's be real.
It's true.
You know, but once you get around me and you start to like me or love me, it is something you have to consider, because it is a part of my life and it will become a part of your life. And there are decisions you'll have to make moving forward with someone with lupus or another autoimmune disease or another challenge that is health related, that, you know, you have to be there for the person. But ironically, what I find is that the things that are required in terms of being in a relationship with someone with health issues are things we should be doing anyway.
Exactly.
You know, we should be making sure the other person's taken care of. We should be paying attention to each other, paying attention to where our mental space is, where our physical space is, paying attention to the things we're saying, but the things we're not saying. You know, so yes, there's a decision that you need to make if you want to stay with someone like me. Again, this is something that is not serious enough to affect every single day, but one day it could get very serious, and you need to be making that decision to be down for that. You know, because even if you, whether you want to stay around or not, if it comes up, it's going to hurt you too. You know, if something more serious, a serious manifestation of it comes up. But I haven't had the best examples of how that's supposed to go, but I don't lose faith that I won't find it. I met I got together with a old elementary school friend and his wife. He's a physician's assistant. She just so happens to have lupus. I didn't know until the first day I met her. And I have to be honest, like, just seeing them and hearing their experiences, wow, like I was very touched, because it made me feel like I can find that. The patience he has, and I mean, granted, he's a physician's assistant. I mean, not a physician's assistant. He's something in the medical field. I don't want to mess up his title, but he loves and cares for his wife, and that's just so, I don't know, it like really touched me to see a couple who is facing what I face and is strong and handling it. So I know it's there, it exists.
It exists.
You know, so I'm like, all right, guys.
Yeah.
I see what you do for others, right?
Do it for me. What was the prayer, Sierra? Like, what is Sierra pray?
You know?
No, it's important because you can't, sometimes I know they say, and the people in the world, you know, you can't aspire for something you've never seen. And you have to know it's possible. You have to know it could look like something. And I think that's really dope that you were able not only to see that, but experience it through them. And soon, for yourself, the price done went up. Odyssey, out now. Real things, real things. So yeah, I love that on love. So you did mention your grandparents' relationship, you know, and like their dynamic and their dedication to each other. Tell me something that, you know, in their relationship that you'd like to incorporate. We know nobody is, you know, perfect people, perfect couple, you know, couple goals, you know, take that lightly always. But what's something that you would love to incorporate in your future relationship that they have? And what's something that you want to kind of just leave with them and not incorporate?
They were on some level polar opposites, which I love. But I don't know if I want to be polar opposites from my partner. So they could keep that part.
Yeah.
I would like to have some. I'm talking about they didn't watch the same type of TV. Like each one of them called the other person's TV trash. Like what they would watch. Like you know, there's too many differences in who they are. But it worked for them, so that's still beautiful. But again, just kind of going back, they took care of each other. I think they're the example in what I'm looking for as well, just because my grandmother took care of everything, their entire union, right? She raised them kids, she kept a clean house, she had 3 meals a day on the table, my grandfather's clothes were all ironed, she worked, she hustled on the side, like
wow.
The traditional woman plus the modern woman back then, you know? And when she got sick and was going downhill, my grandfather cooked and cleaned and had her clothes clean and got all her medications and did all the shopping. And when the doctors came to kind of have, you know, she was her last 2 days, and the doctor came to talk to the family, and he was like, listen, I see a lot of hospice patients. This is the cleanest patient I've had. She has no bed sores.
Unheard of.
She is immaculately kept. And I know my mom and her siblings found warmth in that as well, and just like a sweetness. But again, those are the things that I'm talking about when I say we have to care for each other. And, you know, it's not always going to be 50-50. I think they set that clear example. There's going to be times where, word to Big Shelly, Michelle Obama, sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30. You know, sometimes one person's doing more than the other. But if we're in this together and we have that same intention of making sure the other person's good, when one falls short, we pick up the slack. And I think my grandparents were a beautiful example of that.
Beautiful. And it's that balance. You know, I want to be the 50-50, or maybe that's 60-40, where I'm the 40. But I think even hearing that is so heartwarming to know then it was possible again. You can see it, so you know it exists, and you also know you can have it, so you can aspire for it for real. Towards the end of the book, we're visually introduced to consistent color. And I know I said it, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to read or just see the book yet, we have the experience of like a lot of beautiful black and whites with like a lot of beautiful entries side by side, and we get some color and we're like slowly introduced. But now towards the end, there's so much color, and it reminds me of a butterfly's life cycle. Very beautiful. And in regards to your journey, this book is time capsule and starts since 2016 and doesn't end till 2022. So we have 7, now 8 years of evolution. What has been the most meaningful change for you?
My peace. I think I've found it in a way that's like, when I went through the hard time over this last year, I've never been so calm through challenge before. I don't know exactly when it started, but I have been so leaned into faith, like just like, okay, we've been here before, we'll get out of it again. We felt this before, we'll feel a different way soon. And it's just like this overwhelming feeling that I'm so grateful for, because that's not really common, to feel peace while you're also frustrated and sad and not understanding things. So there is, over the course of these, I guess, 8 years, there's been that change in just being able to really just lean into faith and lean into the idea that it's going to be okay again, you're going to be fine again, you're going to come back up from it. That is like unmatched from any other chapter of my life, and I'm happy that I have it now. I think that is the beauty of going through hard times, is being able to recognize that we're going to have those ebbs and flows in life. That is the duration of life too. That's not just one little thing. I'm no longer chasing this forever happiness or peace. I'm embracing that I'm going to have some tough times. I'm going to learn from them, and they're going to be really important. And sometimes I need to share them and share the lessons from them too.
Thankfully. So excited about this, honestly, and for the world to receive it in that way, in the way I received it. Because you sharing it is going to move some other people's mountains, just to hear the way you moved your own. Yeah, for real. So a few things that I love so much, and I know I've like gushed over this book because I truly not only believe in so many of your entries that they are anecdotal and few ways. Like, it's not just, hey, go ahead and do this and things will be great. It's like reality applied. It's a theory applied. Like, you can try this. This might work for you. This may work for you. This is what I did. And it's important to hear. There's so many beautiful concepts that I love that you explored. In the Odyssey, we see self-discovery. We see a lot of doubt. We see a lot of gratitude. We see you facing your own mortality and just discussing it overall. Love, health, and your own aspirations. What are some things you want everyone to take from this, if they don't take anything else?
You can do it too. You're going to have the good and the bad, and you are built for your challenges. You need to put your hands, this is my quote that's on the back of the book, you need to put your spirit, you need to put your spirit in the hands of your triumphs and stop putting it in the hands of your defeats. And you can do it too. You can overcome anything. You're built for your challenges, and you can make art of your battles all the time.
Ooh, I'm about to cry. No, this is art. Lastly, as far as my questions are concerned, your book dedication in the intro. I want to discuss the three individuals you dedicated your book to, and the impression they left on you, each of them separately. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So my three people are Evelyn Ortiz, Keith Elijah Burwell, and Maria Hernandez. Evelyn was my aunt. She was one of my mother's best friends and was hot and cold, fire and ice, a Sour Patch. So she was sweet and sour. She was everything contagious of a person like that. And somehow, some way, even in her dark hours, she found a way to make you laugh, you know? When she called me to tell me about the cancer returning, she made a joke. And I'm like, girl, stop trying to make me laugh, you know? On her funeral cards, she put the recipe for her favorite thing she loved to bake. And it was just kind of a testament to her spirit, even though she went through, man, really a hard time in life. She was just so lovable and just such this free and not free spirit at the same time. And although she didn't necessarily have a partnership, she had a tribe that she built. You know, she might not have had the perfect family setup, but she built one. And I think that's really powerful, and just remembering that you can build community around yourself, and they'll be there for you every step of the way. You know, we were there, we held her while she transitioned, you know. So there's that reminder of that for her. Something similar with Keith. Keith was also a super fun spirit. He was lovable. He was the life of the party. Keith was the party. I don't think he was the life of the party. He was the party. My time in college, there is not a single moment I can talk about that doesn't include him. And we actually bonded because even in that fun that everybody saw him as, he was having a hard time. And that's how we actually became best friends, by being there for each other in that space. But when he passed, they had to get 2 rooms at the funeral parlor. Police had to direct the traffic outside. There were so many people, and everybody kept saying, how did he keep in contact with all these people? And I kept saying, because when he thought of someone, he reached out. Whether it was a text, a DM, a little Facebook message, a phone call. If he thought of you, he reached out. When he saw you, it was love. He was never afraid to tell people he loved them or he missed them. Very vulnerable in that way. And I try my best to be that way. I'm not as good at it as he is or was. But whenever I think of him, I'm like, okay, next time you think of somebody, you better make sure you contact them, you know? So I carry that lesson with me. And as far as my grandmother, my faith is 1000% because of my grandmother. My grandmother used to do this. She used to say, you put it in God's hands and you just keep going. So now with my mom and my sister, specifically, whenever we're feeling overwhelmed by something, I just do this. And we all know what I mean. And everything about how I run through this life is in that lesson. And it's something so simple, it's 2 sentences, but I carry that with me. Her demonstration is also important because she was just such a strong woman, and not strong in like, she was very opinionated, a very traditional stereotype of a grandmother. That was my grandmother. But man, she was emotional. If we were leaving, bawling, crying, you know. But that's also strength, you know. So I try to embody those parts of her in myself.
I hope they are all extremely proud.
I hope so.
Because Earthside, we're happy.
Mm-hmm.
We are proud.
Thank you.
We are honored. We are lucky. Is there anything that we haven't discussed in regards to your Odyssey?
I think we've covered it. I want to, I guess, quickly highlight that these photos are in their time. So both in the words and in the photography, I did not edit anything for the book. I edited the book, like rearranged grammatically, like periods, commas, etc. But it's all unfiltered. There's some pictures in there that I know there's a pimple somewhere. I'm not gonna tell you which ones, but I was like, I'm not editing none of that out. Y'all gonna get this book just like this. And I hope that people can see growth even in that, from the picture on the first page down to the very end of the book. So I'm pretty excited about it. Y'all can get this book real soon. The pre-orders are up.
Yes.
Buy my book.
Yeah, and it's a phenomenal book. It is one that I think needs to be on, like you say, everyone's coffee table, or just, in their homes, right next to if you have one of those Rihanna books, you put it right next to it, okay? Because it's not just the pictures worth 1,000 words. These words hit hard. I don't want to give anything in the book away in its totality, but there are a few quotes in some of these entries that truly moved me. One of those is on page 72 when you guys get there. And it says, "To the ones that find happiness where there is none, you are special." Another quote that kind of rocked me, I think it's the coolest thing I ever heard. It says, "I don't want to practice love through my wounds." And that can be found on an entry on page 114. And the last one is probably my absolute favorite. It can be found on page 92. And it says, "Are we paying attention to each other?" This can absolutely be met with an argument that we all have things going on. We all have 1,000 of thoughts bouncing around our minds. The interesting thing is, the people who actually pay attention are the ones that are hurting too. And that one gut checked me. I love so many of these poems. But I would love to hear some of the passages read by you.
I think I want to read, just to close this out. Oh, and I think it's on the page. Yes, it is.
Yeah, alignment.
I think I would like to read this one. Wow, that was perfect.
Yeah,
This is what I want to read. This passage is from July 25th, 2021. "God, steer me to peace. Push me to release weight. Carry the light load for guidance. Remind me to inhale, exhale. Appreciate the moments. They all take me there, where I want to be. One laugh, sigh, tear at a time. Thank you for patience, even when it's almost run dry. Waves bring it back to shore, and I'm grateful. Your work is not done, neither is mine."
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
trusting me.
Absolutely. I'm grateful. And you were chosen on purpose. Thank you for always being insightful, always being true to yourself and true to your thoughts, your opinions, never being afraid to be yourself, because in that you gave me the space to fearlessly be myself, and I'm so honored that you took the time out today to sit with me.
Of course. I want to hit you, but we're on camera. I will cry.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Bryson of Be More Creative Group, and thank you to Gary Pivot of Pivot Language Studios. I owe you guys so much for being a part of something so special for me. And I hope that everyone gets a chance to take some time with my little baby here, Ninjane Presents Odyssey, and share whatever you feel about it, good or bad. I just am so proud of it myself, and I hope that it's something that you guys can have as a staple in your home and something to reflect on. Thanks again, Mack Unfolds.